Let me introduce you to Anna, a learner just like many of us. She is dedicated to learning English, working hard every day to improve her skills. However, like so many of us, she faces the challenge of being nervous about speaking in English, especially when it comes to real-world situations. This is a common hurdle that many language learners encounter. Speaking a new language in front of others, especially in situations that feel important or serious, can bring on feelings of anxiety and self-doubt. And Anna's story is no different. Her first visit to the doctor in an English-speaking country should have been a simple appointment. But what unfolded was much more than just a trip to see a healthcare professional. It became an unforgettable language learning experience. You see, during her appointment, Anna faced a language mix-up while trying to explain that she felt unwell. Instead of saying the word sick, she accidentally used sin, leading to confusion. This seemingly small slip-up became a pivotal moment in her language learning journey. It was a moment where the typical stress and frustration that come with making mistakes in a new language met with an opportunity for growth. Personal insight into learning English as a second language. Learning a new language, especially English, is often compared to juggling multiple balls in the air at once. At any given moment, you're trying to remember new vocabulary, make sure your pronunciation is correct, and understand the grammar rules. But when you find yourself in a real-world conversation, especially with native speakers, it can feel like all that preparation goes out the window. It's almost as if the words, phrases, and rules you've carefully learned just vanish in the face of real-time conversation. This can be frustrating and discouraging. After all, when we've studied so hard, why do we still feel like we're not progressing the way we hope? Here's the thing. Though Anna's story is an example of how language learning doesn't always go according to plan, but that doesn't mean you're not making progress. Sometimes, the true measure of progress is how you handle situations when things go wrong. The fact that Anna kept going, even when she made a mistake in the doctor's office, is a testament to the kind of persistence needed to succeed in learning English. She wasn't perfect, and neither are any of us. But that didn't stop her from trying. And that's what language learning is really about, continuing to move forward, even when you stumble. Imagine yourself in Anna's shoes. You've been practicing English, trying to get better at speaking, and you've reached a point where you feel confident enough to have a real conversation with someone. Then, the moment comes when you need to use what you've learned in a real-world situation. Anna had studied hard for this appointment. She was ready. She knew exactly what she wanted to say. I feel sick. Simple, right? After all, she'd learned the word sick and practiced saying it. But when it came time to speak, something unexpected happened. She walked into the doctor's office, and her nerves kicked in. She said, "I feel sin." Yes, sin instead of sick. Now, imagine the look on the doctor's face. He was likely confused, wondering what she meant. Anna immediately recognized her mistake, and it made the situation even more stressful. She had meant to say sick, but in that moment, her mind blanked, and the wrong word came out. This is where I want to pause for a second and share my own experience with language learning. I've been there, making that one tiny slip-up that completely changes the meaning of what I was trying to say. It could be something as small as a single letter or vowel, but the result is a moment of confusion. The difference between saying sick and sin is huge, and Anna felt the pressure of that. She immediately began to panic. It's easy to feel like the situation is spiraling out of control when you realize you've made a mistake. But let's take a step back and remember mistakes are part of the process. Every language learner makes them. In fact, it's often through these mistakes that we learn the most. Anna's immediate response to her mistake was to continue speaking. Instead of stopping and becoming discouraged, she pressed on, trying again to express how she felt. The doctor, understandably confused, waited for her to clarify. But here's what happened next, something that I think many of us, as language learners, could learn from. Anna didn't give up. She didn't hide behind her mistake or feel embarrassed. Even though she realized she was saying the wrong word, she kept going. She didn't let that small slip-up derail her. And this is exactly where language learning differs from many other things in life. When we learn a new language, we're going to make mistakes. It's inevitable. But the beauty of learning a new language is how those mistakes help us improve. In that moment, Anna didn't just learn how to say sick. She learned something even more valuable, that even in the face of a mistake, she could keep trying, keep speaking, and keep learning. As I look back on my own experiences, I can tell you that I've made plenty of mistakes that have led to confusion. In one instance, I confused two similar sounding words in Spanish, and it completely changed the context of my sentence. Like Anna, I felt a little embarrassed, but I didn't let it stop me from continuing the conversation. And just like in Anna's case, the other person was patient and understanding. They knew I was learning, and that's the key. People are usually more understanding and supportive than we give them credit for. They want to help you learn, just as Anna's doctor did. Here's another truth that's often overlooked. Language learners are resilient. Every time you make a mistake and keep going, you're building resilience. Learning a language is hard. It's not just about memorizing vocabulary, it's about building a new way of thinking and communicating. You have to be resilient enough to accept that you're going to make mistakes, but also confident enough to keep pushing forward. Anna showed incredible resilience that day. She didn't let her language mix-up define her. She kept trying. And that persistence paid off. So, what can we take away from Anna's story? First and foremost, making mistakes is not something to fear. It's a part of the language learning process. Second, persistence is key. Even if you make a mistake, keep going. You might not get it perfect the first time, but with every try, you improve. And lastly, resilience is a skill that will serve you not just in learning English, but in all aspects of life. Next time you find yourself in a similar situation, whether it's at the doctor's office, in a business meeting, or just chatting with a friend, remember Anna? Remember that she made a mistake, but she didn't let it stop her. She kept going, and so should you. This is what makes learning a language so rewarding. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Keep trying, keep learning, and keep speaking. Because in the end, every mistake you make brings you one step closer to fluency. Reflecting on the fear of making mistakes. Have you ever felt your heart race when you said the wrong word in English? Or when the person you're talking to doesn't quite understand you, and you feel like you've completely messed up? I know I've been there. It's incredibly frustrating to find yourself in a situation where you're trying to communicate, and the words just don't come out right. Maybe you misspoke, used the wrong verb tense, or even confused words that sound similar but have completely different meanings. In those moments, it can feel like the world is closing in on you. You might start questioning your skills, and wonder if you're really making any progress at all. This fear of making mistakes is one of the most common barriers to language learning. But it's important to recognize something crucial. It's not the mistake itself that matters, but how you handle it. In Anna's case, her initial mistake saying sin instead of sick could have easily been the end of the conversation. She could have frozen in embarrassment and given up on trying to explain herself, but she didn't. Instead, she kept going. She acknowledged her mistake, corrected it, and continued with her explanation. And that's the lesson we should all take from her language learning. Isn't about getting everything right. It's about persistence and resilience. We all make mistakes in language learning. It's an inevitable part of the process. What's important is how we handle those mistakes. When you mess up, don't let it stop you. Embrace it as part of the journey. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll become with speaking, even if you make mistakes along the way. Anna's persistence is something we can all learn from. She didn't let a single mistake derail her. She kept speaking. And that's exactly what I encourage you to do. Keep speaking. Keep trying. And most importantly, keep learning. Every time you make a mistake and continue to speak despite it, you get one step closer to fluency. So, the next time you feel your heart race or your palms get sweaty because of a mistake, just remember Anna. She faced her fear, kept speaking, and ultimately communicated her message. It's not the mistake that defines you. It's how you handle it that matters. The importance of using technology for language learning. Now, let's take a moment to reflect on one of the most powerful tools available to language learners today: technology. Technology is a game changer in language learning. In Anna's story, after her mix-up with sin and realizing the mistake, she turned to her phone's translation app to find the correct word sick. This was a brilliant move, and it shows us how important technology can be when we're learning a new language. Many of us have experienced that frustrating moment when we know the word we want to use, but we just can't recall it in the heat of the moment. In those cases, it's easy to feel stuck and like we're failing. However, Anna's use of the translation app demonstrates that technology isn't just for quick fixes. It's a tool that empowers you to continue the conversation even when you're unsure of a word or phrase. Translation apps, dictionaries, and even speech-to-text tools can help bridge the gap when you're struggling to find the right words. These tools are not a crutch. They're a resource that allows you to maintain the flow of conversation. Technology helps language learners feel more confident and equipped to deal with the challenges of speaking a new language. It's not about relying on the app for everything, but it's about knowing that you have it as a backup when you get stuck. This helps reduce the anxiety of making mistakes because you know you have a way to get back on track. In the past, language learners didn't have access to such immediate resources. If you didn't know a word, you either had to ask someone for help or hope you remembered it the next time. Now, with a quick search on your phone or tablet, you can find the word or phrase you need to keep the conversation going. This instant access to information means that you don't have to fear the unknown. Instead, you can embrace it and keep communicating. So, if you ever find yourself in a situation like Anna, where you can't quite recall the right word or your mind goes blank, don't hesitate to pull out your phone and use the technology at your disposal. It's not cheating, it's being resourceful and empowered. Technology should be a tool that complements your learning, helping you stay on track and move forward, even when things don't go as planned. personal experience, and encouragement to keep speaking. When I first started learning Spanish, I found myself in situations where I didn't have the vocabulary to describe something important. I remember once trying to explain a very specific feeling, and I knew the word in English, but I just couldn't recall the Spanish equivalent. My first instinct was to panic. I thought, what if they don't understand me? What if I sound silly? But then I realized I had a tool that could help me: my phone. I pulled up my translator app and quickly found the word I needed. That small action allowed me to keep the conversation going and avoid getting stuck. I'm sure many of you have faced similar situations. It's easy to feel embarrassed when you can't find the right word or phrase, but the key is not to let that stop you from communicating. Just like Anna, I used technology to help me when I was stuck, and it made all the difference. Sometimes, the fear of making mistakes can feel overwhelming, especially when you're having a conversation with someone who speaks the language fluently. But you shouldn't let that fear prevent you from speaking. It's about making progress, not being perfect. When I first started learning Spanish, I was hesitant to speak because I was afraid of making mistakes. But what I learned is that language is all about communication, not perfection. Even if you make a mistake, the goal is still to get your point across. The more you speak, the more confident you become each time you try. Even if you don't get it exactly right, you learn something new, and eventually, you get better. Just like Anna's story, using a translation app or a dictionary isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of resourcefulness. It shows that you're doing everything you can to communicate, which is the ultimate goal of language learning. And the more you practice, the less you'll need to rely on these tools. But until you reach that point, don't be afraid to use them. They are there to help you. And using them can help you keep the conversation flowing when you're unsure of what to say. So, the next time you find yourself in a situation where you're stuck for words or worried about making a mistake, take a deep breath and don't hesitate to pull out your phone. Use the resources available to you to keep speaking and keep learning. Because language learning isn't about avoiding mistakes, it's about making progress, embracing the journey, and continuing to move forward, no matter how small the steps may seem. In conclusion, language learning is a journey full of challenges, but also full of rewards. Mistakes are not setbacks. They're opportunities to learn and grow. Embrace them, keep speaking, and don't let the fear of making mistakes stop you from progressing. Use the tools available to you, like technology, to help bridge the gaps in your knowledge and empower you to continue learning. And above all, remember that every conversation, every attempt, and every word you speak brings you one step closer to fluency. Learning from the experience. When Anna's mistake was finally understood by the doctor, it was a moment of relief for both of them. The doctor, seeing her embarrassed expression, laughed kindly and reassured her that making such mistakes is absolutely normal. He went on to share that he encounters language mix-ups all the time, especially with patients who are still learning English. Anna was far from the first person to make such a mistake, and she certainly wouldn't be the last. This exchange was a pivotal moment for Anna, as it not only alleviated her embarrassment, but also highlighted an important lesson in language learning. Mistakes are a natural part of the process, and they don't signify failure, they signify progress. One of the most important things to understand in language learning is that mistakes are absolutely fine. Whether you're speaking with a native speaker or practicing with a fellow learner, you are not expected to be perfect. Mistakes don't mean you're not trying hard enough, or that you're failing. They mean you're trying. And the more you try, the more mistakes you'll make. And the more you'll learn from them, that's the key. Each mistake is an opportunity to learn something new and move closer to mastering the language. The doctor's reassurance was invaluable. He not only helped Anna feel better physically, but also gave her the emotional confidence to push through her fear of making mistakes. He reminded her that mistakes are something we all face. Whether you are speaking a new language, learning a musical instrument, or mastering any new skill, mistakes are inevitable. It's how we handle them that makes the difference. So, let this be a lesson to you. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. They are not a reflection of your ability. They are a reflection of your commitment to learning and growing. Every mistake you make is a step toward becoming more fluent, more confident, and more capable in English. And remember, just like Anna, you will always have the opportunity to correct yourself and move forward. The pharmacist's role in the story. More on misunderstandings. After Anna's doctor visit, her journey didn't end there. In fact, it wasn't long before she encountered another misunderstanding, this time with the pharmacist. As Anna went to pick up her prescription, the pharmacist handed her a medicine and asked, "Would you like the regular one or the extra strong one, Anna?" Still feeling a bit shaken from her earlier experience. Misheard extra strong as something entirely different. She thought it was for energy and confidence. Imagine how confusing that must have been for Anna, especially considering what had just happened at the doctor's office. First, she accidentally said sin instead of sick. And now this. It's easy to see how language learners often experience these types of misunderstandings. These kinds of situations are frustrating and even funny in hindsight, but they're a normal part of the learning process. In Anna's case, it was another mix-up, but one that demonstrates a crucial aspect of language learning. How you manage the confusion matters. Anna didn't panic this time. She didn't spiral into further embarrassment. Instead, she asked for clarification and learned from it. This is such an important skill for language learners. We can't always control how others react to our mistakes, but we can control how we respond. It's all about staying calm, being proactive, and seeking clarity when needed. While the pharmacist's offer of extra strong medicine might have sounded a little odd in the context of Anna's condition, it's a great example of how language learners often face moments of confusion. These situations challenge us to ask for help, practice our communication skills, and most importantly, keep speaking, even when things go wrong. In the end, Anna was given the correct medicine, and her experience at the pharmacy, while confusing at the time, became another opportunity for growth, analyzing the humor and lessons in language learning. The funny thing about Anna's story is that while she was going to the doctor to feel better from her stomach ache, the language mistakes she made actually made her feel worse in the moment. The initial mix-up with the doctor and then the confusion at the pharmacy, each mistake added more stress to her day, which could have made anyone feel discouraged. But what's fascinating here is that this story is filled with moments of humor and levity, which is a beautiful thing about learning a new language. Often, what starts out as a stressful or embarrassing experience can, over time, become a funny and memorable part of your language learning journey. Learning a new language doesn't have to be a serious, anxiety-filled process. While there will undoubtedly be moments where you feel embarrassed or frustrated, there will also be plenty of opportunities to laugh at yourself. And that's what makes language learning such a unique experience. It's not just about memorizing grammar rules or learning vocabulary. It's about having stories that are unique to you and your journey. Anna's story, with its mishaps and funny moments, is something she will likely look back on and laugh about in the future. And that's something to embrace. The ability to laugh at yourself and your mistakes is a sign of maturity in language learning. So, what's the lesson here? Mistakes don't have to be all doom and gloom. Sometimes they lead to laughter, interesting stories, and unique learning moments. This is what makes language learning so enriching. It's about embracing the process, the good, the bad, and the funny moments, because, in the end, they all contribute to your growth and mastery of the language. The value of persistence and courage in speaking. The most important takeaway from Anna's experience is persistence. Despite everything going wrong at the start of her doctor visit, Anna didn't give up. She didn't stop trying to explain herself. Instead, she was brave enough to keep speaking, even when she knew she had made a mistake. This is the kind of attitude that we should all cultivate in our own language journeys. When we start learning a new language, it's easy to get discouraged. It's tempting to give up after a mistake or to feel like we're not making progress fast enough. But here's the thing. Language learning isn't about getting everything right. It's about showing up, speaking, and being willing to make mistakes. The more you speak, the better you'll get. And the more you embrace mistakes as part of the process, the easier it will be to keep speaking and learning. Anna's persistence allowed her to make it through her entire doctor's visit and pharmacy stop without giving up, despite several awkward moments. That same persistence is what will drive you to speak with more confidence in the future. The next time you're faced with a challenging conversation or a situation where you feel unsure, remember Anna's experience. Even when things didn't go according to plan, she didn't let fear hold her back. She kept going. And that's what made her a stronger language learner. Sometimes, we fear that making mistakes will hold us back in our language learning journey. We might think that a mistake means we've failed, that we're not progressing, or that we're somehow less capable. But in reality, mistakes are what make us stronger. When we make mistakes and then correct them, we're doing something important. We're building new neural pathways in our brains. Studies show that when we make mistakes and actively correct them, our brains form new connections that help us learn more effectively. So, in essence, each time you say the wrong word, mispronounce something, or have a communication mishap, you're actually strengthening your brain. This is why making mistakes is essential to language learning. Every error you make is a small victory because it brings you closer to mastering the language. Mistakes aren't just obstacles, they're the stepping stones that help us grow. And the more mistakes you make, the more resilient and capable you become. So, instead of avoiding mistakes, embrace them. Each one is a valuable opportunity to learn something new and get better. Next time you make a mistake, think about Anna. Think about how she kept speaking despite the confusion, how she kept trying even when things didn't go as planned. And think about the success that came from her persistence. Learning a language is not about perfection. It's about progress. Every conversation you have, no matter how many mistakes you make, brings you one step closer to fluency. It's about learning, growing, and connecting with others. So, keep practicing, keep speaking, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Remember, it's not about how many times you fall, it's about how many times you get back up and try again. Language learning is a journey, and every mistake is just a part of that journey. Laugh at yourself when things go wrong. Keep pushing forward, And most importantly, keep learning. You're not alone in this, and every step you take is a step closer to fluency. Thank you for watching, and I hope this video has helped you feel more confident in your language journey. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe for more tips on language learning, and let me know in the comments what mistakes you've made along the way and how you overcame them. See you in the next video.